externally. So they lose the sense of this relationship that they've had before. And I think that's probably what happened to her. So in a dark night that's a depression, like a psychological depression, several things happen. You can't do work, you just want to sleep. I mean, if any of you have gone through depression like I have, you really don't have any energy to work. Number one, and number two, people are kind of repelled by you. I mean, your friends try to help you out, but they don't really want to hang out with you. So you're not exactly a fun person anymore. And but in the dark night of the spirit, the opposite actually happens. You actually have more energy to work. Mother Teresa got up at 2 o'clock every morning. She answered every single letter she ever got. She got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and worked. And people from all over the world would come just to have her touch them. So much so that there were days, and I don't talk too much about this because I can't really explain it, but there were days when we would walk out of Mass. And as she would walk through the group of us, we would all lower our head for her to touch us. Nobody said anything. You didn't see other people do it before you did it. Just everybody spontaneously would do this, and she would just touch us. And people would come to have her touch their unborn babies. I mean, it was like she had, and that is scriptural, you carry the light of Christ. And at that level, she had suffered so much. Suffering actually helps produce that light, that salt and light. And that's why I think in some ways Western Christianity's been a little weak. I hope that helped.
Well, I just want to thank you for being so transparent with us. That has been a real blessing. But my question was actually referring to weak Christianity, and in some of the things that you said about self-knowledge, it just made me think about how constant self-probing and asking for, being able to forgive yourself is almost distracting from the purpose of Christ. And I guess my question is just how do you feel where's the line in that, being able to live for Christ in a way that you're not always doing this self-checking and self-probing, because then it's about you. And would you say that's a huge part of weakness in the church, is that it's about the self and not about Christ?
I do think that. I mean, even the contemporary songs that we sing now are all about me and Jesus. If you look at the hymns, they were all about we. And I do think we can get over involved in navel-gazing. We are a very individualistic society, and we love individualism. And Christianity is part about being an individual, but it's also part about being a body, a whole body that's united around the world. And when we do focus, I really appreciate what you're saying. When we do focus too much on ourselves, we can't be doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're all called to something. We all have a destiny, and it's not about us. You're right. You're right. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, can I also ask you, what do you believe God's personal, or what do you believe the personal mission of Christ is to you? What do you see that being? What's the ultimate mission of Christ?
The ultimate mission of Christ? Well, okay. In Genesis 1, we see that Christ is the Word God, right? So there's three, the Trinity is there in the very beginning of the Scriptures, the first 3 verses. So it says, the Spirit is hovering over the water, and God was there, and God spoke. And then we find in John 1 that the Word that God spoke even then became Christ. And I think God had to come down to save his people. He had to become a person, a human being and God, and die to really save us and to give us the freedom to be the people that we're called to be. I mean, we're made in his image, and we, through Christ, through his death and resurrection, we can become more like him. And he came to do that. He came to show us the way. He is the way, the truth, and the life. I mean, I really probably would be dead if I had not, physically even dead, because of the kinds of things I was doing, if I had not come to Christ. He really does come to give us life and to give it more abundantly. And to do that, he has to cover our sin because we are under that kind of condemnation until we see him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll risk a comment on self-forgiveness that you can comment on. A priest once told me, he said, own your sin. You have to own your sin. Don't minimize it. Confess it and forget it.
Uh-huh.
I
I think that's great. I think that's great.
So my question is, a lot of us, my age, our kids were raised in Christianity or Catholicism in my case, and then they threw it over. Apparently they're good. I think they're good people. They have lots of good values. They're very responsible. Not a bit interested in Christianity as I know it anyway. Do you have any comment on that? You must see a lot of young people in that situation.
I see a lot of people in that situation, and I think one of the things is the university. They come to the university and they have the same experience I had. Nobody's talking to God. When they do, they pretty much denigrate it, their faith, and make them feel ashamed of it. But I also see a lot of students in universities who are pretty on fire. So there are other people who manage, usually they get involved in Christian groups, manage to maintain their faith. But I think it's very difficult to maintain your faith in a university. I would encourage you this way. My father read the Bible every night of his life, but he never spoke to us about it. He took us to church faithfully. The church he took us to, however, was fairly intellectual and very non-orthodox. It was a Methodist church, but it was pretty much teaching the same thing we were learning at school. But he didn't know that. My dad only had an 8th grade education, and I think he felt insecure about teaching us. The only thing my dad ever taught us was he taught us to do our math homework when we were in like elementary school and junior high. He was very good at math. He was a mechanic in the war and taught jet and reciprocal engines. He could fix anything. But I think he felt ashamed of his lack of education, and so we didn't get that. So when my dad passed away, he had 4 girls, and not one of us was a Christian. And now all but one are Christian. So I think it's easy to not be a Christian when you're young. Until you really begin to see who you are and what's going on in life, and then you begin to ask a little bit harder questions about yourself and about the world, and you want to know where you're supposed to be, and you get the sense that life should be more meaningful, and then there's only one place to go after that, and it is to the religious frameworks. But so I wouldn't say that it would never happen. I suspect at some time, as a child, we must have given our life to the Lord in some way, even if we didn't really consciously know it. And I just think that God never gives up on us. And so hopefully they'll come back. I think a lot of people do. And when things get worse in the West, which they're going to, I think, people will be looking for other explanations of what's wrong.
Dr. Bowen, we have time for just one last question.
Okay.
Have you read The Shack?
Yes, I did. I read The Shack.
Want to comment on that?
Well, I thought the characterization was somewhat distracting, but very good in terms of really describing the Trinity and what the role of the Trinity actually, how the Trinity works together to draw us and heal us and comfort us and lead us and guide us. So I think what I would say, what would you say something? I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your putting up with my personal stories, and I so would like to kind of go back to the beginning and just to suggest that there are serious problems in the university in the West. And the serious problem is that some of the best intellectual intellectual, social, spiritual, personal, moral solutions to life's problems cannot even be raised. And we need to not forget that. And I think we need to be, as the Lord told Joshua, be strong and courageous. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
All right, with the conclusion of our question and answer segment tonight, I just want to mention that Dr. Poplin will be hosting a roundtable discussion tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the Journey Room of the Memorial Union. Again, Dr. Poplin will be hosting a roundtable discussion tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the Journey Room of the Memorial Union. On behalf of the Socratic Club, I want to thank you for attending this evening's event. The OSU bookstore has a table in the lobby with Dr. Poplin's books on sale, and we invite you to stop by, and she will be available after we're done here this evening. And lastly, if you're interested in signing up for a mailing list for future Socratic Club lectures and debates, there'll be a sheet in the lobby. And with that, I thank you and good night.